Hello, prospective listeners and viewers. Welcome to part two of our series around. I had this happen in a few videos back where I said Democrats. You remember your sister got me? She's like, that was one she texted. I was like, I can't talk when I come on here. Okay. But welcome people to Perspectives with Martina.
Hello, Seth.
Yeah, so we are back with part two of Why Men Hate Women, focusing in on politics in the United States. And so, if you haven't had a chance to watch part one, you can go back. We'll link it down at the bottom for you. Let's see. Thanks for people for tuning in. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. We're happy to have you here. Please subscribe, sign up for notifications. We're doing our best to be more engaged this year. So by doing all of that stuff, you all can kind of keep up when we drop our videos and our pod, whether it's, whatever you're streaming or wherever you're listening or watching our information. So yeah, this is interesting what we're about to do. Okay. Okay. Just like stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. Okay. Okay. 0, 6, 4, 151. What do these numbers mean, Seth? What is that?
These are numbers that represent different levels of government offices and the number of women that are in those. So the zero is vice president. Um, if you don't remember or recall, we've only had one woman vice president.
Yes, and these are current stats,
Yeah,
current
current
numbers.
stand. So these are current numbers that we
Yes.
so they're zero. So we've had one in the past, but we have currently zero. The six is cabinet level positions in our government. Four is U.S. Supreme Court. So that's interesting. The 151 is Congress in total. So if you don't know, there's 535 seats total in our Congress. So 151 of those, which is 28.2% of those seats that women
Just shy of 30. Okay.
shy, shy. Um, when we go into like the Senate, that 26 is for Senate, and that's out of 100 seats that there are, if you don't know. For the US House, there's 435 seats, and that's 125 that women hold in those. And it is just fascinating. These numbers come from the Center for American Women in Politics. I'll make sure that there's like a link to this so that if you're interested and want to go see, because they break it down, they go into like governor as well.
Oh, yeah.
Out of the 50 states, we got 12 states that have women.
They get local. Yeah.
Mhm. And they even go into like and they break it down to like even mayors as well. So they have like mayors. They have one where like mayors of the 100 most populous cities. So 36 of those 100 cities have women in them. And then they even have cities over 30,000 individuals or population of 30,000. That's 1,686 seats. Out of all of those, there are 428. So that's 25.4%.
And people like, why y'all laughing? We
I know.
just, because we have to laugh to keep from crying. I know everybody's
Yeah.
heard that saying. So we're not laughing because this is like, we're so happy about this. This is really ridiculous. So this is
It's
why we're
just,
laughing.
yeah, it's crazy because I think right before we hopped on, I was just telling Martina, I was like, the fact that, women are half the population, you're just half the population, we're in the other half of that make up. And in some of these, we're not even in half the percentage. Like none of
Not
these
even
are close
close.
to half of the percentage in some of these seats. And it's like, yeah, like you were saying, Martina, it's like we have to laugh because otherwise we're gonna get either really sad and depressed or we're gonna get really angry. And
Yeah.
I was like, I might as well just kind of laugh it off for the moment. But that's why we're here, right? Like that's why we're here to talk about these things, the reasons why um we don't see more women in
Mhm.
politics. Like that is fascinating. We've had two women over the last couple of elections try to get to that coveted president seat.
Yeah,
Not so coveted right now, but anyway, we'll
they
get
can
to
keep it right now.
but like so the fact that two women have gone and unfortunately failed both times. And a lot of that driven by the rhetoric around women, the
Mhm.
lack of respect for women, the just really just awfulness that these two women received during their campaign trails is it's fascinating. And then even when you see other women in other positions, and this is and some of it is even both from a Republican and Democrat, like
Mhm.
women get trashed in both ends. Like
Yes.
it's not like Democrats are the only women that are getting, hit with, things like this or being told like no, it's both sides, and it's really kind of that. But that's what we're here for today. We're just gonna talk a little bit about this, our experiences as well. And kind of do that. But Martina, I'll just let you kind of talk a little bit. What were your the first reactions when you saw these numbers?
Well, when at first I saw the zero, and because at first, I misread it. I was like, wait, but we've had one female vice president, but then it was like current. I was like, oh yeah, there are currently zero female vice presidents in this country. I mean, we can only have one at a time. But
Mhm.
um I think that was that was kind of daunting to see. And I think too, when you look at some of these higher statistics, where we look at let's see, Congress, out of 535 seats, only 151 of that is female or, women. And it's just, again, like, the numbers, they're pretty static. There are more men. I think that's the obvious thing. There are more men that are in politics in this country. Um, and I guess, kind of as we're saying, like, what is some of the reasoning behind that? That's what got me thinking. Because, we do live in an age, people blame things on different things. They talk about feminism, saying that's how that hurts us, how that helps us. But then it got me thinking, like, sometimes why can't women even show up for women? You know, like,
Mm.
I think now look at currently, like, we have the MAGA and then we have the Republicans, because I see those as two different
Yeah.
distinctions. Um, and if, whatever people decide to do, that's their business. But oftentimes when I've looked at, even before, MAGA kind of has risen over the last few years, when it has come to issues that pertain to women, how sometimes women who are in these political roles, oftentimes Republican women, they don't support rights or different bills for women. And
Yeah.
it's, often very interesting to me. So it's almost like we have this side, well, we already don't have the men supporting us. Then we don't support each other. And I think it's, we all probably, women have been in some situation like this. Doesn't necessarily have to be politics or something political, but it's like we can't even support each other sometimes. And so what do we expect the men? I mean, I don't really expect anything from men. My bar is in hell. I have no expectations, except like expectations from my dad or my brother. But hey, they family. I can't count them. Um,
Yeah.
but it just makes me wonder, like, this whole idea, especially now in this country, again, the mega conservative are
Yeah.
really trying to keep women like at home. There's been
Mm.
this whole, and I'm getting a little bit off topic a little bit, but there's this whole like tread wife, thing we've been hearing about on
Yeah.
Instagram and TikTok. And, you know, again, if that's what a woman wants to do, and if people don't know tread wife, which I'm assuming most people listening probably know, it means traditional wife, meaning like a wife is in that traditional role in a marriage.
Hmm.
So she most likely doesn't work. She takes care of the kids, all that stuff. She takes care of the family. And again, I support whatever women want to do, but it almost seems like, and this is where probably some of my conspiracy theories come in. I'm like, this sort of movement to like tread wives. And don't get me wrong, I follow a few people. I follow a few women. I think it's fascinating, like the things that they can do. So I'm not going to say I don't follow it. Do I
Mhm.
necessarily ascribe to that sort of thinking? Not necessarily, no. But it is so interesting. I feel like there's this sort of movement, or at least we've been seeing more in like media, mainstream media, how this idea of tread wives is kind of like blowing up or taking off. And again, I think it should be up to the individual. It should be up to the woman what she decides to do. So if you want to be barefoot home and cooking dinner and having six babies, girl, more power to you.
Yeah.
There ain't enough out there for me to probably do that. But everybody's different. And so, but then it's like, are these same sort of things keep the our society, and men still rule society. White men have, created they've created society, Western society, really, and how we view society. And
Hmm.
so to me, sometimes it's kind of hard not to be like, damn, that tread wife is really setting us back. But I also have to remember I'm trying to support women, but at the same time, it's kind of a struggle because I feel like people in politics, particularly, will
Yeah.
use those sort of things to say, "Well, you see, you're such a good mom. You're such a good wife. That's the role you need to stay in. You need to stay
Hmm.
in that role. Don't try to, branch out and go into politics or, whatever the profession may be. But now we're talking about politics, so it's just like." I'm kind of on the fence sometime with it. Like, do you, girl? But also, like, I just feel like this has have become a whole movement of like
Yeah.
this, for like the mega. That's one of the things that, is
Yeah.
a big part of it. But that was very long-winded.
No, you said a couple of things that I think like circle back to just the topic that we are on hand of like,
Mhm.
women in politics and sort of the impact that really these like very cultural or societal things have on women who pursue not just like high paced, high, caliber careers that are, being in politics, but even if you get into like C-suite level positions and all these
Yes.
things, because you're like, you as women, the sort of like you'd mentioned, the traditional thing is like, hey, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna raise, your family, you're gonna be home in time to like pick up your kids, like all these things that was traditionally women's roles,
Hmm.
which should have they ever been traditionally women's roles? I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think God created me to do that, but that's a whole other conversation to be had. uh but I think because of that, because men made it such a thing where like this is women, this is what they're supposed to do, as as society, as the world progressed, as we got more, as things became more modern or just things changed, the economy changed, women had to come into the workforce.
yeah.
you know we had two world wars, like those had huge impacts as to the role of women and what women found out what they can do. Like I think that was like, we can do a lot more and there's no going back, right? Like
Mm-mm.
once a community, an individual, a group sees what they can and what they're capable of, there's no going back. Like there's no way. Like there's only to move forward and see what that is. And thankfully there's been really women that have pioneered all
Hmm.
these different careers, and we've gotten to where we are at, where we see women in politics, where we see women holding this. We were fortunate enough to see at least a woman vice president, right?
Yes.
Who, and we've had two women um who had really good shots at being presidents of the United States. And we've seen women, recently around the world, like Mexico, like have
Yes.
first woman president and is doing a really good job
Doing
and
better
the
than
role
us.
and really kind of showing like what it is. So it's like even when you look outside of the United States and we look at the global landscape, I don't have numbers, the facts and figures in front of me about globally what that looks like, but it'd be really interesting to see like globally what that looks like. Is it on par? Are we in those like 20 to 30% percentiles as well
Mm.
across the globe? Um, but to see that and to do that, and to the point, I'll circle back to the point of like going back to this traditional role that women have. And like you said, like I'm all for women and just people doing what
Yeah.
They
Support
what's
your
best
body.
for them.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we have people who will take that, who will take something that's become mainstream and be like, all these like, well, look at that. You have these group of women right now, women who want to be in the traditional role, and those like, well, good for them, but that does not speak for the majority.
Right.
Like you can't say like there is a desire when maybe it's just 5% of the women population want that. That doesn't mean that the 95%, the rest of us are like, no.
Hmm.
I was like, if you want a traditional wife, you better be bringing in tradition, more than traditional money so that I can stay at home and and do the things that we can do. Like that's that sort of things. And I won't, I heard that that's probably came out from TikTok or something. I heard somebody mention that.
I
Like,
probably did.
because I was like, I think I was just snapping away when I saw that because it really is like, how do you expect women to take on a traditional role and yet you want them to like be on top of everything 24/7 and do all these things and you're not bringing in the money that's needed to make sure you have everything you need and be
Hmm.
able to get everything that's done and all these things. So again, kind of on topic, but a little non topic, but it all circles back because it's like you have a group like the MAGAs who will take
Hmm.
that and be like, this is what everyone should just fall under this umbrella. We all should, women should just stay at home, women shouldn't be working, women should, do this, or they really shouldn't have a loud voice, really have this much, power. They should just kind of step back and do that. And you see that sometimes, like you see that very much along, and we'll get into more party lines a little bit of like the women who are Democrats who are speaking up right now. Like you have women like I think her name is Jasmine.
Jasmine Crockett, yeah.
Okay. You have AOC. AOC has been loud since she stepped into
Stepped in there. Stepped in
minutes.
there.
I'm like, and it's just so important to have those loud voices because you are you are drowning. Like there is a sea of 535 seats and there's only 151 of y'all. So like you have to be loud and we have to step up. But because we have these sort of roles that have been prescribed to women,
Mhm.
that we should be quiet, that we shouldn't speak up, that, you know, our place is at home, that, that we're too emotional, that, our periods are what's gonna make us, press the
Oh,
nuclear
yes.
button, like all these things, things that are normal for us, that are even our normal bodily functions to be used against us to keep us
Exactly.
down and to keep us away from leadership positions. And they use that traditional role of like, and I see it all the time. Like I see it all the time through work and other spaces of like women always, being the ones that have to go pick up their kids, have to, kind of manage their schedule and sort of, do everything because that's the expectation.
Hmm.
Right. And I hear a lot of individuals who will complain, right? Who will say, like, my goodness, I just wish maybe, my partner would just step up a little bit more or would do this and it's like how terrible that you have these like amazing, smart women,
Yeah.
hardworking women who are just bogged down because of all of the weight that they have to carry because they have to give they they don't even like expect even like 50% from their partner. They're like, even if you just gave me a little close to 50%, like they're not, I mean, they're not expecting 100% from their partner. They're expecting
Yes.
50% is what I meant to say.
I knew. I
I
knew.
know. I want to make sure the listeners, y'all, knew where I was coming from. But like they're not expecting 100%. They're like, even if you just give me 50%. And mind you, I'm in a pretty like fortunate spot where I don't have kids. I don't have a lot of
Yeah.
responsibilities. I don't have like that. And I'm able to sort of, do that. And I try to be as understanding of,
Hmm.
those that are around me and be like, hey, like do what you gotta do, whatever I can do to help and step in, like let me know because at the end of the day, it does take a village because
Yes.
sometimes the partner you have at home isn't part of your village or isn't 100% of your
Mhm.
village. And that comes from like work, that comes from friends, family. Like I hear this all from all over different, perspectives and roles. And it's unfortunate because then you have women who step into these positions of power who are also dealing with their personal
The
lives
same thing,
and the
yes.
same things. They have kids and they have to like make perform at a level that is not even expected from their male counterparts.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I know I've said too much now.
Well, what you said here at the very end about paraphrasing, like, you know, women in these relationships, they don't even have a partner. They have a partner, like they have a male counterpart. But can you call that a partner? Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes some women can't call that, and that's, I think I've never heard it said quite how you said that. Because it's true you can be in a relationship and be married and have that counterpart, but is that person a partner? I think that's like heavy. I think it really is because, oftentimes as we saying, even if women have a job full-time, part-time, or they're at home, women are still expected to be the one to take care of the household, including the kids. And, I've heard or I've read, I should say, some men said that, they have offered to help and like their wife says, "Oh, I got it, I don't have to." But see, my love language is acts of service, you know? And so me, I'm like, this is your supposed to be your partner. If
Hmm.
you in this male or female, but
Yeah.
right now we're talking about the dudes.
Hmm.
Um, if you see your partner is maybe needing help with something, whether that's with scheduling, I've also heard men say that, oh, well, she has all the doctor's appointments information for the kids. You can get that from her.
Hmm.
You don't, she doesn't have to be like the gatekeeper of the information.
Yeah.
Even if you maybe can't always participate in like school activities or doctor's appointments, you at least need to know that information.
Yeah.
And I think some men don't know some of that simple information. They
Yeah.
depend on their wives or their female partners to know that information. Like it's almost like if she's not there, you can't operate. And then sometimes
Hmm.
I think it is like that for some
Yeah.
households. Like when, like, again, we're talking about politicians. These are busy women,
Yeah.
busy women traveling all across the country or across their state, and a number of them have children. And some of them might have children that are like special need. You never know. People, it is a range,
Yeah.
that is out there. And so, I mean, I would think if I'm out here doing this, and if I'm falling someplace, whether we have kids or not, whatever's happening in the household, you expect your partner
Mm.
to be able to kind of swoop in, because it's
Yeah.
like if you can only give 30% that day, and your partner can maybe give 50%, then maybe y'all come together and work on that last 20% together. Like
Yeah.
try to figure out, how you both can come together. And again, I'm not in a relationship. I'll be open about that. And I realize it's not always easy because I have been in relationships, but it's not always easy. I've never been married, not yet. Wish me luck in that one. Um, I haven't been married, but I've been in relationships. And so it's just, and again, as I watch people in my life have relationships or get married, um, it is, I would say for a lot of my friends in that situation, I think they are strong women and like can put their feet down, but that's not everybody, but
Mm.
I do think there some, needs to be a strong man in there to support this strong woman. And I'm jumping around a little bit, but when you were talking about they call women emotional. I'm pretty sure they've used that for AOC, Jasmine, so many.
Yeah.
But men behave like anger is not an emotion. And then, like you said, they use that against us. And
Yeah.
like there's something wrong with crying or
Hmm.
shouting or getting upset. But they get upset and shout. So it's
Yeah.
like what you do, we can't do. So it's okay
Hmm.
for you to do it. And oh, anger is not an emotion. But if we show emotion, oh, she's just a woman, she's scorned and all this. But what about, so it's just like these things from society that has been created,
Hmm.
it's just often flipped on us. Like we obviously now we can't do exactly what a man can do. This is why this whole conversation is
Yeah.
happening. And, I think hate is a strong word, and that's the title, or that's what this series is focusing on, like hate. surrounding women and in politics. But I think it's a strong word, and I think it's needed because after, this election we had, it really to me just showed that, and even as as we go back and talk about Hillary, it really just showed that, as you were tuning in to what was happening before the election, people all across the country were being asked who they're voting for and why. And, we have people that have come out and said that because she's a woman, I feel da 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 da. And
Hmm.
some of them don't even have a reason.
No.
They just say, well, I don't like her. What is that? What is what don't you like? Talk
Yeah.
about that. And it's just so interesting when people say those sort of things because I'm like, okay, you don't like her policy. Tell me why. What don't you like about the policy? They can't tell you because
Hmm.
they probably don't know what the policy is. They just don't like her because she's a woman and she's a woman of color. Um,
Uh,
in Hillary's case, she's a woman, but
mhm.
white women are still a minority group as well.
Yeah.
So that's all that they know that we don't like her or I don't like her. This
Hmm.
is no, not a good position for her. What is what? What is this? It's just like these same sort of people. And again, all these haven't been male. Some of these have been female. Very few and far between. I will say that. A lot of women did come behind Kamala. I will say.
Yeah.
In the media and across people we know, I
Mm.
think women really did. We really tried. We really showed
Yeah.
out. And there's some fallacies in that while we were out here getting celebrities, probably should have been visiting some of
Yeah.
these small towns and
Yes.
counties out here that are
Hmm.
primarily Republican and mega counties that previously Democrats held. Now, whether it
Yeah.
dropped because of the administration before or because of women, we don't know. But it should have been some more outreach to local people. And that I will say, Trump did do that. He is, I mean, the people, I hate to admit it, but he's very charismatic. He speaks to how people in this country is feeling. And I think when we had, the Obamas, and it's like we thought everything was, cherry pie. I mean, nothing's ever completely cherry pie. But I think we felt stable as a nation. We had allies. I don't know if we have those now. Um, we had good standing. We were still the like top world order. We were that country. We are not that country now. And then that's again a little bit outside the sphere of why men hate women. But I do think it all rolls up. It's like a tumbleweed. It all rolls into one and contributes why we as a country we can't get past certain issues. We can't get past societal issues. We can't get past a two-party system, all these things rolled up into each other. And I think for us to, Lord, even get back to where we were before January, there's gonna have to be some changes.
Yeah.
And I'm not a politician. I don't know what those change. I could tell y'all. That's why I have this podcast. I can tell you what I think some of these changes could be, but I'm not in that position to have that sort of influence. Um, yeah, there's a lot more, but I said a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to hone in on what you mentioned, like, this time around with Kamala, there was a lot of women who kind of rallied behind her a lot more than than we did back when Hillary was running. And I think that was a
yeah,
lesson learned. I think that was a lesson learned from Hillary's run and campaign was that, there were even a lot of women who were at that time kind of like questioning her
yeah.
ability to be president, and all these things, and just kind of questioning and putting doubt and all these things, when in reality it was more of like it still became this sort of like the conversation was the same, like, are we gonna what are we voting for? We're voting here to protect the rights and care for the really for the least of all of these groups, right? Like
Yeah.
there is an attack on certain groups in this country. We saw it again this past election season where it is, and it was executed. All the threats that were made and all of the policies and things that were talked about during Orange Man's campaign trail, like
Hmm.
those are coming to fruition and have been. Um And again, as a society, we failed to really see ahead, to really look at what was going to be best for everyone. And I think, and I do agree, like I think there was a lot more coming together to rally behind Kamala. And were there a lot of missteps in how people
Mm,
rallied behind her? Yes. I mean, and I think the Democratic Party as a whole needs a whole overhaul and
amen.
a new plan, a new strategy, a new strategic plan. They need to sit down for a couple months and come up with a new strategy and figure that out. But I think that's something that I think, we honing in on sort of even just women supporting each other, right? And then
Hmm.
how do we show up for each other? Because for so long, we've been sort of pitted against. I know
Yes.
here you and I have talked about how, Black and brown and other communities have been pitted against each other, right? Have been sort of told like, hey, there's not enough resources for all of us. There's not,
A
we can't,
lie. Hmm.
all these like absolutely not. Like that, those are lies. And I think it's the same thing with women, right? Like we've been told like no, like, you know, feminism is bad and traditional is good and then traditional is bad and modern is good, like all these different things, but in reality it's what works best for you, right?
Yes.
Like it's what works best for you. It's what's, and that I think at the end of the day, I think that's what feminism is really trying to represent, is like it's what's best for you as a woman in your situation, in your
Yes.
current, lifestyle and all whatever it is. It's what is best for you and what's going to help you move forward and succeed. And I think a lot of the times we go into this mentality of like, oh no, it's me against her and like all these things, or oh no, when we get into reproductive rights, no, like
Hmm.
I'm like, it's your choice. Like that's all it is. Like it's your choice. If you want to be pro-life, you can be pro-life,
Exactly.
right? Like you just can't. And I think to use something like that to be such a political stance and to use it against, as you're trying to get into one of these seats, like we don't even hold 50% of the Senate seats. Like we don't
Yes.
even hold 50%, and a lot of it comes down to what we were just talking about, like, women are too emotional, women can't lead, women have, you know, the ability to get pregnant is used against you because oh my God, they're gonna want maternity leave.
Yes.
They, how are we gonna move forward? How are we gonna, do this and all these things? And it's like, how do we get past that and let and people, because I'm like, there's no way that you are seeing women do what they do, be able to create life,
Hmm.
create, carry life, bring it forth to this world, and not think that women have superpower. Like, I applaud. I'm like, because I look at, people that are around me who are moms, they have superpowers
Yes, they do.
because
Yes, they do.
they can function and do miracles and wake up at all hours of the whatever night, day,
Hmm.
and accomplish everything that they have to do. And I'm like, and how dare you tell me that women can't lead a country when they do everything and anything
You
for,
create life, like you say.
like
Create life.
like just that, like create life, and they raise these men who get into power, like they're raising to me it's just mind-boggling that people really think women to be weak
Hmm.
and that our characteristics make us weak, when in reality, I'm sorry, I think women are just the stronger of the two genders we know and have the moment that, and I was like, they are definitely like, we're just the stronger. I'm like, I'm sorry, like you can't convince me otherwise because I have seen what the women in my life and around me have been able
Yeah.
to accomplish and do and survive and get through. Um, and then, and these women who are in politics who are fighting every day, and this is across the aisle. Like, look, if you're fighting what you believe is true and right, like I will give you credit. Do I agree with you on the other side? No, absolutely not. But look, you're fighting and you're on here and you are up against a male dominated industry because our government right now is an industry.
I was gonna say, I think they all male dominant.
Yeah, all of
Almost.
them. Almost all of
Almost.
them. Yes, you're right. You're right. We're all fighting in male dominated industries.
Yeah.
Like, whether they're male dominated or the systems have been created by males and continue to be
Yeah.
upheld by males. It's just like, no, like I'm sorry, like it's just the fact that men consider women weak for what we're able to do and accomplish and what our bodies naturally just do and are made for and what we can create, but then use that against us, but then also expect us to just be that, to
That's
just
your only
be
identifier. Mm-hmm.
like, just be a mom, just be the woman that stays home, just be like, absolutely not. Like, we have proven time there are documentaries, there are movies about women that have done things in history, and we all get we applaud them and we're like, yes, and we
Yeah. Go
give them
girl.
nominations, and we all
Yeah.
these, but yet we don't hold a lot of positions of power. Like, and this is across, obviously, we talk about politics, but this is across things. Like, it'd be interesting to see how many women CEOs are in this country. Like, those industries, like, what does that look like? What does that C-suite level across
Mm-hmm.
look like in industries? Because again, I'm fairly sure probably be about the same probably numbers that we're seeing in our government, if that's any reflection around. That's where
I,
I am.
you again. I need to start having a pad so I can write
I
stuff
was just
down.
thinking that,
I was
Martina. I
like,
need to write.
because I hate to bring out my phone and be on here doing it, but I'm like, I'm seriously need to think. We need to think about this because it's
Yeah.
like, man. But I would love to see women come together. Um, and I know we're kind of getting to the tail end of this, and we'll be back. But when I think of like the Rachel Maddows and Megyn Kelly's, how
Mm,
oftentimes they're pitted against each other. Again, I don't know these women's life. I don't know if they've ever tried to meet. I don't know, but it would be great because, the one thing I haven't heard from this administration, and I'll probably mention this time and time again, no one's talk about unifying. No
okay.
one has like talking about unifying the country.
Mm,
And the country is so divided. But that is what this administration wants. And of course, going back, that I mean that's happening across the aisles, happening across, the genders. But I would love to see women come together. I think for 2028 and even local elections too. I
yeah.
know we talk about the federal, but local elections are just as important, if not more important. I would love to see women from different backgrounds coming together. And there's always going to be things that we're not
Hmm.
going to agree on. But we all want to be treated with dignity and respect. We have earned that as women,
Yes.
times 1,000. And so all of us, I think women can agree on that. Um, and so I just wish and I hope, I don't know if there's some sort of, I don't know what it needs to be, but I think women do need to come together because we all have to be united.
Yeah.
We all gonna have to be united, and and not just with women, just across all the areas. We're so divided,
Yeah.
but us women, we have proven that when we do come together, like you mentioned early on, like World War One and Two. I mean, women came together and they went out here to factories and worked. They
Hmm.
took on the jobs that the men did. The men had the nerve to try to tell them to go back to the house when they got back in the country. But the women have been working. They're like, I've been making my own money. I've been out here, living my life. And,
Yeah.
so it's like, I think it's great when we all come together.
Yeah.
And so I will end that conversation on this note. But like I said, we will come back with
Yeah.
this part three. Now, I want to do a shout out. So I am not, there's no sort of sponsorship I'm like we're doing for this, but people here in Chicago, I don't know if they've heard of Dilla. He does Chicago tours, and I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt of his right now. It says Chicago Black History. I'm trying to read that backwards, y'all. And on the back of the shirt, there's all these dates and different events that have happened across Chicago that involve African Americans since way back here. But anyway, just wanted to say I went on his Bronzeville tour with a good friend of mine during Black History Month, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. I would say, just go support. He's like he has been on, I think, NBC. He's been on Kelly Clarkson's show, but he's such a humble guy. He loves what he does, and he loves this city. He does tours in Pilsen, Bridgeport, Pullman. Check out his website. Just to learn about Chicago history, and especially, for me, I'm not native to this city,
Mm,
but so many people from my home state of Mississippi live here in Chicago.
true.
And his tours I think are reasonably priced. So just wanted to say that. Y'all should go do those tours. Now listen, take us home.
Yeah, no, I think we'll get, that was a great way to wrap up our time together
Mhm.
today. So please, if you have any thoughts or anything resonated, please make sure you comment or reach out to us, whether it's on our YouTube channel, whether it's on Instagram. We love to just kind of hear your thoughts around it. Y'all know we love to make some response videos. So if there's any questions or things, we'd be happy to do that with this. But um just keep questioning things around just women
Yes.
and really pushing forward, like what can we do. And I love what you said, Martine, of like there has to be more conversations between women, right, between women in power, between everyday women out here, and a lot of what reason we started this podcast because we
Yeah,
were having conversations and we think
exactly.
maybe others would want to have listen and have these conversations as well, or have the ability to be like, hey, like I heard this and can share out the information around it. And I love what you did right now, just shouting out our local historian in Chicago. I've seen him, I think I've seen him on TikTok, social media
Yeah,
lots of times and doing that. So to know that I didn't know he did tours, so I'm definitely gonna check out and do some of those because you can I mean the communities here in Chicago. If you live in Chicago, we are
right.
there's so many great neighborhoods, great history, rich history in a lot of our neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Culture in each of them, and it's different. Like, one neighborhood is not the same as another neighborhood.
exactly.
So just great to see that. But thank you all for
Yeah.
joining us in this conversation. We'll be back with what would be part
Part three, it'll probably be
part
the final one in that series,
yeah, it
but
might be. Well, you know us. We might have more to say.
we always have more to say.
Or we might just come back to it later too. So
Yes.
do that. But thank you. Make sure you are subscribed so you get notified when our next episode is up. But again, we just appreciate you spending a little bit of your day with us. And we will talk and see you next time.